Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Truckers Podcast, FYI. I'm your host, Doug from Ontario, Canada. It is the 14th of April, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here in Southern Ontario, Canada. Thank you for joining me this morning. Social construct. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. It is Friday morning. I gotta tell you though, this past week, weather-wise, we're having summertime weather in April. And today, with no exception, it's going to be another very warm day and into the weekend as well. And we broke records yesterday in temperature-wise. Just fantastic, but next week things will turn back to the norm of April weather, springtime, but get out there and enjoy this exceptional weather that we're having this morning. So anyways, I'm able to do this show this morning because I am off today and I have an appointment to go to. So it's just great to get out here. And when I have the time to get out here, this is great for me and great for you as well. So what is social construct or social construction? Something that we build. And it's, hey, good morning. Thank you for joining me this morning. So I was just mentioning just before you came on the show here that here in Southern Ontario, Canada, this past week, and I being just, the middle of April, we are experiencing summer-like weather. We're in it's been yesterday was like 80 Fahrenheit, 82 Fahrenheit. Is it the norm for this time of year? Not generally. I mean, we're usually, in the high 60s, so it's been exceptionally warm, clear blue skies. It's just been fantastic. So, so I just wanted to, come out this morning. I do have the day off, but, and that's another reason why I'm out here. So every chance that I get, come out here and do a show. So what is social construct or social construction, right? It's things that we build in society, right? And things that develop in with society and groups that are meaningful only because people within society or groups accept that they have meaning. Simply put, social constructs do not have inherited meaning. They only mean that they have this meaning given to them by people. So an example of social construct is that The idea that pink is for girls, blue is for boys. Because we're not going to dress our children or boys in their a pink dress or a pink sleeper. Vice versa, whatever, like that. Well, you could put a girl in blue too. But that was the that was the social construct. And of course, related to gender of course, in the color of the items, in the collective perspective, that particular color can be associated with certain gender is not an objective representation of truth or fact. Instead, it's a social convention that came to have meaning within the context of society. So when we talk about adulthood and what is adulthood and when do you become an adult, so we have these ideas of when a person would be becoming an adult. So with the social construct, for instance, in the United States and most of the European Union, people are considered to be adults at the age of 18. In Scotland, however, people are considered to be adults at the age of 16. I mean, people can get their driver's license at 16. People, well, here in Canada, in the United States, you have to be 19 to drink alcohol. You have to be 21 to drink alcohol in the United States. I think the province of Quebec, the drinking age is 18. But how do we perceive, who is an adult? Because at 18, I believe also in the United States and probably within the European Union as well, at the age of 18, you can vote. So does that make you an adult? Still a teenager. And when it comes to social construct, is the gender behaviors, right? So the concept of certain behaviors being specific to a person's gender is a social construct that applies to the ideas that men should keep their emotions bottled up, or the notion that women are overly emotional. Because as males, it's almost like a given that we're just to suck everything up. We're not to show any emotions. No matter what happens throughout the day, the week, whatever the case may be, males emotionally are keep that inside. Whereas females, people would consider that, okay, women are over emotional. Women are going to show their emotions much easier than a male. And it also applies to beliefs that boys should play with trucks and girls with dolls. That was the social construct, because you didn't give a doll and a baby buggy to a boy. You gave it to a girl. Girls didn't play with trucks and in cars and things like that growing up. Because boys were we were taught that no, you can't play with our stuff. This is boy stuff. You have girl things. Gender behaviors, is a concept of certain behaviors being specific to a person's gender and a social construct that applies to the idea. Like, so when it comes to like gender roles, so there are also social constructs associated with gender roles, right? So the formally one, and you could go back 80 years, the formally one, we held the belief that women should stay at home and men should go to work. That was sort of like the norm. Dad went to work, mom stayed at home, right? So in general roles, so mom staying at home, so mom did the cooking, she did the cleaning, she did the laundry, she was the nurturer. So when you're outside playing and you come running in the house in hysterics and crying because you fell down and you skinned your knee, and this is your first time this has happened to you, and it's very, very traumatic for a child. And they don't stop running through the house until they find mom, because they know mom is going to take care of them. Or dad, because if you did stop and crying to dad, what is dad going to say to you? Go see your mother. Mom's going to take care of that. And the also beliefs when it comes to certain types of jobs, that women work as nurses and teachers, and while others represent men's work as doctor, construction. It even could be, lawyer or whatever. So government, the concept of how government should work is a social construct. People in different societies don't have all the same collective perspectives regarding how government should work. And that's why there are so many different types of governments around the world. And we can look at one as authoritarian, such as North Korea, China, Russia. Democratic societies, such as a lot of places like in the European Union, United States, Canada. And how the government should work, right? My idea of how government should work, because specifically here in Canada, because we have the Liberal Party, we have the Conservative Party, we have the NDP Party, we have the Quebec. We also have independent. How they should work, they should be working together, because what happens in this situation is that when we vote, we could end up with a majority, meaning that party doesn't have to have votes from other parties in order to pass a law. What happens then? We have a minority government where, for an example, okay, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, he's the leader of the Liberal Party. He is the Prime Minister of Canada. We have a minority government. He cannot pass laws without the votes from the other parties. So that's my concept of how government should work in a social construct. Now, this has always been, one of the things that's always been one of the norms. When we greet people, it's always, you're taught to be polite, and you're taught how to, to address somebody. Social construct is, if you don't know somebody's name, like growing up as a kid, we didn't address our neighbors by their first name. It was always Mr. or Mrs. and then their last name. Or in how the manner how we greet each other in a social construct, shaking hands. It's I guess you would just call it a normal construct, because that's always what we did, right? When you're first being introduced to somebody, or maybe you're introducing yourself to somebody. People nowadays probably give that little fist pump, instead of that whole handshake. But now that all depends on the environment of where that's going to take place, right? But because if it's in business, you're going to shake somebody's hand, right? And you're going to use that pressure, a grip, in the professional world of shaking hands. Because that's just the way people view it that way, right? So it's the same true as for kissing somebody on both cheeks, or greeting, in greeting in cultures where that is a common practice. Disability. So that concept often relates to visible indicators. Well, for somebody, okay, so they're in a wheelchair, or they're using their electric scooters, they're using a walker, wheelchair, like I said, such as like a wheelchair, or someone with an artificial limb. And people have less visible disabilities, like people who are blind, often misunderstood because their conditions don't fit into the social constructs of others as something that we're not in a wheelchair, we're not missing a limb, and so on. So, and also when we were looking at social construct as in family. So that meaning and that concept of a family, of a social construct. So we perceive a family having that unit, a mother and father and biological children, while others take the broader perspective that there are many types of family structures. So now, family. So we take a look at that for a minute. So family. So the family structure has changed dramatically over the past 50 years. So family units are far more diverse, proving that there are all kinds of ways to be a loving family today. Because look at back, back in the day growing up, I mean, the TV shows back on the day is showing that they have that perfect family. They don't have, or they don't share, the common, like the problems that they don't show, like serious family problems, right? For instance, Leave It to Beaver, and of course now, and also too that so today is like no longer that standard. In fact, the U.S. doesn't currently have a single family type that's considered the norm. I don't think anywhere here, Canada, and probably even Europe, right? Because the variations on family, including single parent households, families without kids. So yeah, it's how we perceive it, right? Of family, and there's plenty of single parents out there. I I mean, can we consider us lucky that we grew up and our mom and dad never got separated or divorced, and we had that whole family unit our entire lives. I had that, and into my adulthood, I became a single parent. Oh, so the child didn't live with me; the child lived with the mother. But nonetheless, I would be considered in the social construct as a single parent. Now, another one, illness, and yeah, and you wouldn't think, illness would be a social construct, but it is, and it is a social construct. The word illness doesn't mean the same thing to everybody. Some only perceive medical conditions as an illness. If it would cause a person to be bedridden or contagious, while others perceive a wide variety of medical circumstances to represent illnesses. Not just disease, cancer comes to mind. Now, when it comes to marriage, and things have evolved and changed over time, social construct. The concept of marriage is a social construct that is not only perceived the same by all groups. Some groups view it as a contract, while others see it as a religious. I see it, you know, as a contract between two people. Some people, when it comes to, okay, so when it comes to religion, within some groups, marriages are arranged. And while others, that decision who may marry or whether they marry is a choice. Money also is a social construct. Currency used as money is made of paper and metal. It only has value because people in society assign value to it. Before paper money and coins existed, people used other items that had value to exchange for goods and services. So, the fur trade, how people, give you three beaver tails for, you know, that one potato. I don't know if that's a good deal or not because, you did get something out of it, but three beaver tails for a potato? Come on. And that's what it seems like today. For an example, with the cost of food. Religion and the aspects of religion practices can represent those social constructs. For faith, Catholic, right? Women are not allowed to serve as priests. However, in many other faiths, women are allowed to serve as priests or the equivalent, a pastor, a preacher, a minister. So how do we look at time in a social construct? The context, you know, human created systems that are used to describe time, like for seconds, minutes, hours, and make it meaningful in some places. Daylight savings time is not observed all over the place. We still do it here um, in most of Canada, not all of Canada, United States. Now, social construct would be changing that. They've talked about changing, not using daylight saving time, and not turning those clocks back 1 hour, or moving the clocks forward 1 hour. Me personally, I don't see, you know, I don't see the relevance to daylight savings time. It's been going on my entire life. My parents, I think it's irrelevant. I don't think it's necessary. Change is what's needed, I think, in that aspect, of that. So that would be a social construct with change, just not do it anymore. Now, we use several other words and phrases that can be used to mean the same thing as the phrase social construct, right? Acceptable practice, behavioral expectations. Well, okay, behavioral expectations, you know, in society, how you are supposed to behave. How we starting with treating one another, right, in a behavioral manner, in a respectable manner. We have that in society. Others go against that norm. Common perception of things, or cultural norms, customary practices. Well, customary practices when we practice customs. Maybe growing up, you did certain things, or your parents did certain things that were customary at Christmas because their parents did it and their parents did it, and so on and so forth. In our customs, well, it could be in people's beliefs. Shared understanding. Well, shared understanding, in communication, of course, we're not going to have the same understanding, or we're not going to have the same uh, uh, agreeableness. And of course, it comes back, to societal norms of how are supposed to, how are we supposed to act. Right. So building, so social is being together. Constructionism, or construction, is building. I think that we're always building social construction in our everyday lives. So, that constructs, develop well, it's the same as construction. Workers would build, right? Construct a building. And that theory of social constructionism is that society is a social construct that is made up of constructed and accepted by people. Now, this is interesting too, because social constructs will cease to exist if people stop viewing them as valid. People who subscribe to the theory hold the reality itself on a social construct created by people within society. Now, it's all human. It's all human made. It's all human development. It's what we perceive as how things should be, or what is, or what isn't. When so expanding so expanding our understanding of social constructs involves considering which of the things actually have an objective meaning versus which ones are meaningful only because people in the group assign meaning to them. I mean, people could assign meaning to a bottle of water. So is that group? We could talk about, for an instance, just for a minute here, about bottle of water. Okay, well, we could talk about its content. We could talk about, okay, what is that water in? Well, it's in plastic. But what does it have meaning? Okay, we put water into a plastic bottle when we can get it from a tap, right? So, and bottled water, well, it is just that. It's from a tap. Or we can have that, or we can think about, okay, well, oh no, this is spring water. So that group are going to have that discussion. They're going to have their views on understanding, that group. So they're going to assign a meaning to it. Now, even like, for sociological imagination, this will allow you to consider situations from other points of view and come to appreciate perspectives other than your own, because we form our own views, we form our own opinions, and we do this naturally. So, I think things still, when it comes to what's not changed is like, for instance, what's not changed is how, when it comes to acceptable um, behavior, and we're always going to have that social construct about that all the time, right? Because how, in general, how you're supposed to behave. Because for an example, if mom and dad are having a dinner party, I mean, if you come from that type of lavish family or whatever the case may be, they're going to have that dinner party. You have that behavioral expectations, because they're going to tell you this is what is acceptable, this is not going to be acceptable, right? So basically, in that probably in that environment, seen and not heard. Same thing goes if your aunt and uncles are coming over. You have behavioral expectations. The grown-ups are going to be with the grown-ups, and then you, as a kid, are going to behave accordingly, right? If you're staying indoors because of the weather, then you are going to be, well, sometimes you're going to be in a conversation because you're going to greet your aunts and uncles, and then your parents are going to tell you to shoo, go away, go to your room, go do something. This is grown up time. So that's always going to be there, and it's always been there. In a family unit. And it's the same thing as, even if for an example, even with a single parent, you're having relatives over, you're having friends over, and you got kids. Same thing goes. It's not just mom and dad. It's not always a mom and dad unit. A whole family unit. So the same thing goes with with what is be expected in your behavioral, and what are acceptable practices that in society. I think it's always, things are always evolving. with social construct. But we have the basic norms in society that we are supposed to follow. It's in our human nature, I guess. Who we are. It's who we are. The one great thing about it is that we can have our points of view, and we can appreciate the perspectives, other than our own. Well, most people can. A lot of people can. Because then you have those people with the disagreeableness all the time. They just disagree. They don't see your point of view. They really don't care about your point of view because only their point of view matters in the disagreeable. And we see that in society all the time, right? People are going to disagree with me. They're not going to have the same point of view as I have with, for an example, that so-called trucker convoy freedom Karen Carnival that took place last year, January, February, and what my perspective on that was. Or my perspective on, the Canadian government invoking the Federal Emergency Act. And my point of view on that is, what took so long? So can people can appreciate that? So can people can they appreciate that view? Some can, obviously, and of course you're going to have that disagreeable, the disagreeableness. So usually my show runs about an hour. I'm only off today because I have an appointment that I have to go to. So it's only a couple people on here, and that's great, and I appreciate you, coming out and listening to the show. If you have any opinions, you have any ideas, something you maybe want to talk about, maybe you want to join the conversation, you can leave. Obviously, you can leave a comment about the show, or maybe there's something that's on your mind, a topic that you feel that's really important to you. Maybe want to be part of that discussion. You can leave the comment in the comment part as well. Happy to have you on the show. And that so, but like I say, my show usually runs about an hour, but it's only going to be a 45-minute episode today. So I want to thank you for taking the time out of your morning and out of your schedule to join me here on the Truckers Podcast, FYI. And I will be back out tomorrow morning. Now, I did have something listed here. No, I didn't put it up there yet, but that's okay. It will be up on the show for tomorrow morning. And I did it for 8:30 this morning, and I thought to myself, I got up and I had just a lot of things to do, so I changed it to 9 a.m. So it is going to be 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, Saturday, the 15th. And like I said before, you come on my show, This past week, here in Southern Ontario, Canada, um, summertime weather in April. It's been fantastic. Clear blue skies in the low 80s. It's been fantastic, and it's going to go into the weekend. So that's great. It's just nice to feel that warmth, and spring is finally taking hold. So I'm happy about that. So again, thank you for joining me. And if you can join me tomorrow morning, that'd be great. If you can, I understand. And until then, enjoy the rest of your day, Friday, and the weekend is here. So enjoy. Take care. Thank you.